Welcome back. Ontario's agriculture is in crisis. Income levels have hit an all-time low, commodity prices have dropped, and farmers are still struggling after mad cow disease. As Grace Peacock reports, all this is causing young farmers to leave the business behind in search of a more profitable career.
They would love to be on farms, but they just can't afford them right now.
The capital cost for young people getting involved in the farm now is way higher than it was even 30 or 40 years ago.
I think short term it's going to be tough, but you have to be fortunate enough to be from a family farm that you can go back into.
Ian Hughes would love to be working on a farm. When his parents sold theirs, he couldn't afford to buy it, and now he works at a farm feed and equipment store. He says getting back onto a farm is difficult because the money and incentive just aren't there.
Young farmers' biggest challenges are getting started. It's a uphill battle. The inputs are high. Fuel and seed and herbicides are expensive. And at the end of the season, you're ending up with a low price for your product.
Ian represents a growing number of young farmers who are leaving Ontario farms. There was a 35% drop in the number of young farmers between 1996 and 2001. Ian says there aren't many other options in an industry where it's tough to make a living.
If I had had a choice, I would probably still be on a farm. But unfortunately, it just didn't pay, so I just couldn't do it. And I think maybe that's what a lot of these young people are realizing, that there's just not enough money for a young guy to get started, especially on a family farm when there might be older siblings and the parents and maybe still grandparents still trying to live off that farm too. So, it just gets stretched thin. That could be a reason why people are leaving.
These changes are starting to affect Ontario's Junior Farmer Association. Until recently, Ellen Batchelor was the president, and she says not only has membership dropped by half in the last 6 years, but the majority of her members aren't even from farms. Some of the junior farmer programs have also changed. They used to have a loan program for young farmers, but it's been cancelled since the interest just isn't there. Ellen wonders what this means for the future of agriculture.
The average farmer, I think right now, they say is around 50 years old, and so once that farmer leaves the farm, then who's going to raise the meat and the vegetables that we need to eat? A lot of people wish they could be on the farm. There's a lot of guys right now that they're in their age where they could be taking over the family farm, but when they do the pencil work, it's just not going to work out for them. Unless the government steps in and starts making relief programs, relief funding, that kind of thing.
Farmers have been asking the provincial government for relief funding and support for some time, staging protests and rallies at Queen's Park and taking their tractors to the highways. The government has responded, but only with short-term financial handouts.
We talk about the federal election.
Ron Bonnet is the president of the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, one of the province's largest farm lobby groups. He says the government needs to provide long-term financial support to help younger farmers get on their feet.
I think one of the things we're seeing is a lot of our bright young people are going and taking off-farm jobs with the hope that they can maybe save some money and come back in later. But I think the reality is if we don't change some of the things on the farm income side and put some tools in place that they can raise the capital to get back in, it's going to create a bit of a crisis, I think, in the future.
Ian thinks farmers just aren't a priority for the provincial government.
Our lobby groups do a good job. It could be the fact that maybe the people they're lobbying just aren't listening. The urban vote counts. The rural vote doesn't seem to count. There's far more urban people than there is rural, so you please the masses, but farmers feed the masses, so maybe it's time that they just listen a little harder.
Despite the industry's troubles, not every young farmer is being forced to look for other work. Some come from larger family farms, successful enough to keep them working and the industry going for at least a few more generations.
Come on, lady. Man on.
Ian is a junior farmer member even though he doesn't work on a farm. His best friend, Jim Robinson, is also a junior farmer member. But he's one of the fortunate ones to come from a fairly successful dairy farm. One day he'll take over the business, and he knows he couldn't have done it on his own.
If I had to go out and start from scratch to have what we have here today, I don't think I'd ever be able to afford to do it on my own.
Jim knows there's no quick solution to the problems in the industry, but he believes the struggles of farmers have fallen to a new low.
Farmers are pretty proud people, and they don't like to ask for a handout. But, you know, that's a good way of telling when times are tough, is when we have to start asking for handouts.
Some agriculture sectors in Ontario, like dairy and poultry, are supply managed and have some protection from fluctuating market prices. But others like beef, corn, grain, and oilseed are vulnerable to outside competition, where subsidized industries have an unfair advantage. Alphonse Weirlink is an agriculture professor at the University of Guelph. His classes are often about the industry's troubles, but he assures his students that the future for them in agriculture can be a positive one. It's just a matter of creating new kinds of jobs and producing more with less.
No, we won't run out of farmers because that food will continue to be produced. You know, the same amount of food is being produced. The same amount of, in fact, a growing number of hogs are being produced in the province. The same amount of milk's being produced, but it's being produced by fewer farmers. So it's not like we're going to run out.
Professor Weirlink says farmers need to tap into niche markets, like growing organic products or producing corn for ethanol fuel. The industry needs to adapt to consumer demand, but he says if you're not lucky enough to come from an established farm, it's going to be tough to start one on your own.
I would like to have a medium-sized farm. That would be a dream for me, you know. A nice pasture farm with a bunch of cattle and sheep on it. And the size doesn't matter to me, you know, just medium size, 100 acres, 200 acres. I would love that. I would also love if it was all paid for, but I would love that.
For 30 Minutes, I'm Grace Peacock.